وقالوا اتخذوا الرحمن ولدا لقد جبتم شيئا إدا تكاد السماوات يتفطرن منه وتنشق الأرض وتخر الجبال هدا. And you say that Allah has begotten a son, you have brought something outrageous. The skies and the earth wants to burst from this claim. Today we will be talking about Prophet Isa alayhi salam. Now we have finished all the prophet series, so if you have been coming weekly and you haven't missed, now you know every single prophet story. There are 25 prophet stories in the Quran, and there is 124,000 prophets sent. Out of 124,000 there are 315 messenger, and you know prophet and messengers are two different things. And today we will finish the prophet series, so this is the last prophet series we are going to have. Now Zakariya alayhi salam was a prophet, not a messenger, he was a prophet. And Imran, that's why we have the chapter Imran, the family of Imran. Imran was a pious man and he was a sheikh, he was not a prophet. And Zakariya and Imran both married sisters. So both sisters, one was married to Zakariya and the other was married to Imran. That's how they have the linkage. Now both of them didn't have kids. Both sisters did not have kids. The wife of Imran, her name is Hannah, and she made a dua for Allah to give her a child. She wanted a son, and she even wanted to dedicate her son fully to the temple, to Allah, fully to Allah. So they would have the temple of worship, which is Bayt al-Muqaddas, and she wanted to fully dedicate her son. So when Allah gave her a child, the child came out to be a female, and she said, "Oh Allah, I give birth to a female." She wanted a son because she wanted her son to either be a prophet or to dedicate himself fully to the Bayt al-Muqaddas, to the Jerusalem, the temple, where it's at right now. And you know, Allah tells us both men and women, they both have equal connection to Allah. Men and women both can accomplish equal spiritual connection. Now worldly wise, yes, man has more authority than women. Men can get closer to Allah in a different way, women can get closer to Allah in a different way. Such as men cannot bear the pain of pregnancy, women can do that. Men doesn't have the patience of raising as much as a woman do. So women can accomplish certain things that a man cannot accomplish by being close to Allah, and a woman can accomplish certain things by being close to Allah that a man cannot do. Both have equal connection to Allah. Now, Hannah, which is a mom, the wife of Imran, she gave birth to Miriam. So her name was Miriam, the daughter. And she made a dua. She said, "Inni a'udhu bika min dhurriyyati min ash-shaytan ar-rajim." She made a dua, "Oh Allah, protect my progeny, my child, and whatever child is going to be under him, from the shaitan." So we know that every child is born, they're poked by shaitan. Yes, there's medical reasons to it, but every child is born, shaitan does poke him out of jealousy. And the only two babies that never cried when they would give birth was Miriam and her son Isa. Now when Imran passed away, the Sheikh Imran, there was a big dispute in the region, in the temple, who will be basically like the person who will be the guardian of Miriam, because her dad passed away, her mom is still alive. Who will be? So there was a dispute between the rabbis or the priests of the temple, who will be the guardian of Miriam. And Zakariya walked in and said, "I am closer to her than you. Since my wife and her wife are sister, I'm like her uncle. I'm closer to her than you. I should be it." They refused, so they said, "Okay, let's make a lot," because each person wants to dedicate to be the guardian, since her dad was a sheikh and pious. Now when they made a lot, they basically, every person held the pen, including Zakariya. They told the Miriam, the child, "Go grab the pen, and whoever grabs the pen will become the guardian." She went and grabbed it from Zakariya. They said, no, let's try one more time. So they went and they got like a little water. They put all the pens. Now when you put the water, the pen is supposed to flow. Whoever flows basically the other direction will be the guardian of the child, even though physically wise it's supposed to flow this way, but they're waiting for a sign of Allah. All the pens flew except for Zakariya went this way, and he was the guardian of Miriam. Now Miriam, growing up, she did a lot of dhikr. She was at a young age, she would worship Allah, and she would have her place in the Bayt al-Muqaddas, so the temple, the Bayt al-Muqaddas. She would have her own place in there, like her own room. And when Zakariya would visit her, he would see food out of season in the place. So such as watermelon grows in the summertime, he would see it in the wintertime. And he would ask her, how do you get this food? It's a private room. Nobody can enter it except for him or her family. How do you get this food from? Where are you getting it from? She said, I'm getting it from Allah. So she would see fresh food out of season in her room. And Zakariya witnessing the miracle. Now, Zakariya got to a point where he was at a very, very old age. And he knows that dealing with Bani Israel, they're very hard-headed. And when he was younger, he was easily talking to them, convincing them. And then, when he got really old, he realized that he's having trouble talking to the community of Bani Israel. So he made a dua. إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا, when he called to Allah quietly, making dua. قال ربي إني وهن العظم مني واشتعل الرأس شيبة ولم أكن بدعائك ربي شقيا. He said, my bones have decayed. Basically, I'm getting really old. I'm having trouble walking. And I am asking you for a son, even though logically wise, he's at an age around 90 to 100. Logically wise, he can't have kids. So he got to a point where he's having trouble walking. He's really, really old. And he's asking Allah for a son. And he said, you never disappoint me in your dua. I'm asking for a son and you never disappoint me. وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي وكان امرأتي عاقرا فهب لي من لدنك وليا. And my wife is also at the very old stage. She cannot bear kids. But I want a son who will be a prophet, so he can go take after me. And I'm afraid of my community, they might get misguided. Because something about Bani Israel, there's a lot of prophets sent to them generation after generation because they were misguided. يرثني ويرث من آل يعقوب وجعله ربي رضيا. He's descendant of Yaqub, because Zakariya was descended from Yaqub alayhi salam, and make him pleasing to you. Then the angel called out to him, and he said, يا زكريا إننا نبشرك بغلام اسمه يحيى لم نجعل له من قبل سميا. We have given you, decreed, you will have a child. His name will be Yahya. The name Yahya was never given to anybody in history. This is the first time a person will be named Yahya. Before that, there was nobody named Yahya. قال ربي أن يكون لي غلاما وكانت امرأتي عاقرا وقد بلغت من الكبر عتيا. He said, oh Allah, how can I bear a son when I am really, really old and my wife is at a stage where she cannot bear kids? She's very old too. Allah told him, قال كذلك قال ربك هو عليهن وقد خلقتك من قبلك ولم تكن شيئا. Allah told him that it is easy for me. I created you before when you were nothing. قال رب اجعل لي آية. قال آيتك أن لا تكلم الناس ثلاثة ليال سوية. Your sign will be that you will not speak to anybody for 3 nights, and that will be your sign. So after that, he left from his mihrab, which is the sanctuary, and he bared news that his wife is pregnant with a child. Now they said, yes, Miriam giving the child is a miracle, but also Zakariya at his old stage was also a big miracle too, because at his stage of age and his wife's stage of age, it was not logical. So it was a big miracle to the community that Zakariya and his wife bared a son at an extremely old age. Now Yahya, Allah made him a prophet, and Allah gave him a book, and he was able to memorize the Torah, because the Torah had some pieces that was left off of it, so he's able to memorize the Torah. Allah gave him back the version of the Torah, and he was given a book, and he was, at a young age, he was serious. He was different from any other kids. When kids call him to come and play, he said, no, I want to worship Allah, I want knowledge, I want to gain knowledge. So at a very young age, he was really different. He was always serious, he had deep love for Allah creation, and he was different, and he was loved among the community. And Allah tells us in the Quran, he made him obedient to his parents, and he was not arrogant. And he did not want to get married. He was very dedicated to the religion. And when he would recite the Torah, people would cry around him. And there's a hadith that the advice of Yahya is an authentic hadith that Prophet ﷺ told us that Yahya stood up in Jerusalem and Isa was next to him. Now Yahya is older than Isa. Isa was a younger age. Yahya is older. And he tells his people, I command you to always remember Allah. I command you. And the hadith goes, if a man is running and he is running from an enemy, and out of nowhere a palace comes out of nowhere. He goes inside and the enemy cannot reach him. That's like you remembering Allah. So in your life, when you're struggling with something, when you're going through trial and you're always remembering Allah, Allah will protect you no matter where. And when you're entering a marketplace, you remember Allah, the hasanat are much bigger than on a regular basis. Because when you enter the marketplace, such as the malls nowadays, you're so attached to the worldly thing. You're just thinking about the clothes, thinking about worldly things. When you remember Allah, the reward is much more bigger than on a regular basis. Or when you're around with people backbiting and talking about other people, and one of the person listening to this just says fear Allah or remember Allah, his reward is much bigger than on a regular daily basis. That's why Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, when he would walk, the Prophet ﷺ told us, when he would walk on a street, the shaitan would walk the other direction to avoid him. He's always remembering Allah. There's no point of the shaitan even try to mess with him. That's how much he would remember Allah. And even when you're at work, when you're at home, you always want to remember Allah. You could literally put something on your computer screen. You can put have the tasbih. Always remember Allah. Always remember Allah. Now, the death of Yahya, so we talked about the history of Bani Israel in last lecture, and we talked about King Herod who built the Western Wall. Now, King Herod had a son, and the Israel was controlled by the Romans. Okay, so the Bani Israel would pay high taxes. They were occupied, and they made a treaty with the king who was a Jew. So he converted to Judaism, and then the king passed away, and he had a son, and the son obviously grew up into Judaism. And Yahya, the king wanted to marry his niece, okay? And then Yahya was telling his community that that's not allowed, that's forbidden. And then the king got upset about that. He said, Yahya knows that I'm trying to marry her. Why is he spreading these talks? And the king, deep down, he liked Yahya, but he knows a lot of people in the community loved Yahya. He was a loved person. And he wanted to kill him, but then he had a second thought. He said, no, I'm going to let it go. The wedding was just days ahead. He canceled the wedding, okay? And when he canceled the wedding, there was his niece who he was going to marry. Her name is Herodias. She was an evil shaitana woman. She has so much evil. She got really upset that the king basically called off the wedding because of Yahya. So she wanted to take her revenge on Yahya. So she went to the king and she began to seduce herself, trying to bring him to love her again, trying to seduce him, all that. And then the king began to love her again, and then he wanted to marry her. Then she told him, no, I will not marry you until you bring me his head as mahr, and then I'll marry you. So the king ordered his army to go and kill Yahya, and he died while he was praying. They cut his head off. And Allah tells us in the Quran, Bani Israel, the ones who, because he was also from among Bani Israel, the one who kills the prophets, they have lost their akhirah, and they will meet their punishment immediately in the world. And we know that King Herodias and his wife Herodias, they both met their punishment immediately, because when Isa heard about Yahya as a young child, he was very saddened. But when Isa alayhi salam began to preach, we know he wasn't there. The king's son, he was dead. So we know that this gives us a hint that the punishment immediately came to him and his wife, and we don't hear about him. Historian wise, they're eliminated. Even historian, when they look at what happened to the king who was supposed to be Jew, he's completely wiped off the scripture. When you look in history, he was a king, and then his son, and then completely wiped off. Even though they had a treaty with the Rome, completely wiped off. So they both met their punishment immediately when they decided to kill Yahya. Now, in the Bible, they call him John the Baptist. So if you ever heard about John, they call him Yahya. So in Arabic is Yahya. In the Bible, they call him John. Now, Isa alayhi salam, he began to preach at around the age of 30. Now, Hannah, let's go back to the previous story. So Hannah, when she prayed to Allah for a son, and she got a woman, basically Allah told us that this woman will be the best woman that walked on earth, and she will have a son who will also be a messenger and a prophet, and he will be among the 5 best prophets that we know. So Maryam, as growing up, she had her in the Bayt al-Muqaddas, she had her own. So in her room, she had another private room where she does also worship, and she had her private section, like a privacy. She had it facing towards the east while she was praying. Well, and her families would visit her, so she would have her own private section inside her house facing the east, worshipping Allah towards the east. Now, when she was worshipping, she sees a man goes inside. A man goes inside in her privacy section. And when she seen him, she said, I seek protection from Allah. If you are fearful of Allah, you move away. He told her, don't worry, I'm an angel, I'm not a human. He came in a human form. And he told her that I'm here to give you glad tidings, and you will bear a son named the Masih, and who will be called Masih ibn Maryam. And he will be righteous, he will be pious, he will be close to Allah. And she already conceded. When he was speaking, he already blew the soul in her. So she was already pregnant right before he even spoke to her. She was already pregnant because the angel blew the soul of Isa in her. Now, she was shocked because that defied all type of logic and biologic, completely defined it. She was shocked. She said, how can I bear a son when no man has touched me? I haven't been around man. I have been in a private sanctuary. He told her, it is easy for Allah, and Allah will make him a sign and a mercy to the people. And it is a decree from Allah that's already decreed. No point of you going back and forth, it's already decreed. And when Allah decrees something, it's kun fayakun, be and it is. Just like He created Adam with no mother and father, He will create Isa with no father. So when she got pregnant, she hid her pregnancy, and this was a big trial for her. And she decided to leave Jerusalem and go to Beit Lahim before she gave birth. And she kept thinking, what will people say? What will people say? Who's going to believe me? And she was very desperate and distressed. And the wave of pregnancy drove her really bad, to a point where she was under a palm tree. And she held the trunk of the palm tree because she's giving birth. And she said, I wish, because she's thinking about what am I supposed to do when I give birth? How am I supposed to go and explain this? She said, I wish I was dead and everybody forgot about me, like I did not exist. When she said that, she heard a voice beneath her. Scholars say this voice was an angel, or it was Isa as a newborn speaking. The voice said, do not be saddened. Here's a spring of water. So a spring of water cast it, because it was in the middle of the desert. A spring of water cast it, and what's it called? Dates have rich and minerals. So Allah, the voice told her, Allah, hold the trunk and shake it, and then all the dates will fall. Eat and thank Allah. And also Allah told her, whenever you see a human, do not defend yourself. You're not allowed to defend yourself. Just stay quiet. You made a promise to Allah, you will not defend yourself. Allah is going to defend you. When she heard that, she had light on her face. She went from being really, really sad into light on her face. And when she went back to, Jerusalem, the people there, they were shocked. Is this Bint Imran, the Sheikh Imran? Is this who she is? The one who dedicated her life into a worship? They told her, oh sister Harun, which is the descendant of Harun, because she's a descendant of Harun, Musa brother. Oh descendant of Harun, your father, he was a sheikh and he was a pious man, and your mother, she was a pious and she was not a prostitute. So what are they accusing her of? Prostitution. And you have came with something evil. Your father never committed adultery. So she pointed at her newborn. She just did this, just pointed at her newborn. And they told her, how foolish are you? You want us to speak to a newborn? We're speaking to you. And then out of nowhere, the miracle happened. What was the miracle? The newborn spoke, I am indeed the servant of Allah. Allah has made me a prophet. Peace to me the day I live, the day I die, and peace the day I was born, the day I live, and the day I die. And the day I will be raised alive. And the people that are speaking to her, they were priests, rabbis, leaders, and they know this is a miracle because they know the family of this woman. They know she's not telling a lie, and they just witnessed a miracle in front of them. But they did have a fear. What is that fear? This child will grow up and overtake us. So they just let it be. Now, the something about the rabbis, they did not correct the community. They would just take money, take money, take money. They were not. Most of them were in it for the business. So one day, Isa was speaking to Yahya alayhi salam, and Isa told him, make dua for me. Yahya said, no, you are better than me. Isa said, how am I better than you? Yahya told him, peace was declared on you when you were born. But as for me, I ask Allah to declare peace on me. So no harm will touch you. That's why Yahya is telling Isa, no harm will touch you as you're alive. Isa grew up. He didn't marry. He was dedicating his whole life to Allah. He was humble. He was giving the Injil. Now the Injil wasn't a book of laws. Some people think Injil was a book of law. No, Isa was given the right version of the Torah, which is the commandment that Musa followed. And the Injil had good news. So Injil means gospel. Gospel means good news. He had good news, and it had some predictions in it. Predictions to what happens after that. Now, famine and drought was coming in that region at the time. The Yahud were being taxed. The Yahud wanted to be independent. The Yahud are waiting for their king, because there was a prediction from King Sulaiman that there will be a Messiah coming. They wanted their land back. Yahud do not like to be occupied. They want to be independent, and they want to have a high status. Now, Bani Israel, as they're witnessing miracle from Isa, as he grew up, he was at the age 30 preaching. One of the miracles that's mentioned in the Quran, that he got a clay and made it into a bird, and he blew in it, and the clay became alive by the permission of Allah. And the people asked him, how'd you do this? He said, by the permission of Allah, I did this. And medicine was at its highest peak at the time. And he would heal the blind, he would cure the diseases, the leprosy. And one of the biggest miracles he showed is bringing the dead back to the life. And he said, this is not from me, this is all from Allah. So we know Isa had disciples, he had students follow him, he had followers. And he commanded his followers to fast for a whole month. And when they fasted for a whole month, they had the day of Eid, the day of joy. So Eid means joy. And they told him, oh son of Maryam, because as he grew up, they call him son of Maryam. He wasn't son of man, he was son of Maryam, the son of a woman. And they said, can you tell Allah to send us a table, food from heaven? Because they heard about the previous stories of Bani Israel when they had the food back in Musa time. We talked about it. He told them, fear Allah. If you are a true believer, don't ask me that. They said, we wish to rest our heart because the majority of the community are not following you. Yes, we see the miracle. They're calling you magician. They're calling you a false Messiah. But if you bring us this miracle, we know you are truthful. So his students, they were doubting him, even though they're witnessing the miracle. But they told him, if you bring us this miracle, we will. So Isa asked Allah, oh Allah, you are the best provider. Can you send us that table from heaven? And Allah told him, indeed, I will send this table. But if anyone reject this miracle, I'm going to punish him a punishment that never happened to any nation before. This will be the worst punishment in the Akhirah they would ever face. And from the sky, literally a table descended from the sky, never tasted before, never seen before. It was reported over 1,000 people ate from it, because there was a lot of famine and drought and there wasn't much food. They kept eating and the food did not finish. And this was a big trial. Who will accept and who will not accept? And why were some of the Yahud declining Jesus after Isa, after seeing this miracle? Is because Yahud wants a kingdom. Isa did not want to be a king. That's why. Isa never claimed to be a king. They didn't want to be a king. They wanted a kingdom. If he has came to them and said, I am, showing them the miracles, I am who will bring your kingdom back, everybody would accept. All of them would accept it. But the reason they accept him, because they're like, no, you're a false Messiah. We're going to wait for our righteous Messiah who will bring us our kingdom back. Now, the rabbis, they were fed up of Isa, because a lot of people would donate to the temple, so they were fed up with him. And there was based on historian, there was a lieutenant called Pontius the Pilate, and he was from Rome. He was sent to Rome as a lieutenant to control the region, because King Herod is gone, as we mentioned earlier. And they went up to him and they began to accuse Isa. The Jewish people went up to the lieutenant and they accused him of wanting to be a king of the Jews. Now they didn't say he's son of God, because he didn't. The lieutenant didn't care about religion or son of God or none of that. He cared about Yahud coming together as one and fighting back the Romans. So in relation, the lieutenant said, okay, I will crucify him. So when the lieutenant sent his army to crucify him, Isa had one of the disciples betray him for 30 silver, and his name was Judas. That's one of the disciples who decided to betray Isa. And they're looking for Isa. They can't find Isa. They can't find the disciples. They can't find his students. Then Judas said, I know where he is. Pay me the money. They give him the money in his hand. Then he took them to a place where Isa is. They were outside the house. Then he he told them he's inside. The army told him, no, you go inside and check, because they want to make sure this is not a trap. He's not tricking them. When he went inside and checked, the window, Isa went from the window and he descended up into heaven with the angels. So Isa never died. He's still alive to this day. And Judas' face became like Isa. So when Judas came out, they seen Isa in front of their own eyes, but it's not Isa. So they went and grabbed Judas. Based on historian, they tortured him all night. They questioned him. Are you calling yourself the king? Are you calling yourself the son of God? Judas is saying, no, it's not me. It's not me. The lieutenant, Pontius Pilate, decided to let Judas go because he thinks it's Jesus, because he looks like Jesus. He decided to let him go, to not kill him. Then the rabbi said, no, you have to kill him. You have to kill him, or we're going to take this to Caesar, that this person is trying to be a king to the Jews. Then he said, okay. They crucified Judas. And it is a big sin to say that God or Son of God or the Prophet died on the cross, because nobody can die for somebody else's sin. It's injustice to say that somebody else died for your sin. And they put a crown on him because, as a mockery, since he called himself King of Jews, so they put a crown on him. And before Isa left, he told his true disciples that, look, I will be leaving, and Ahmed will be coming after me. His name will be Ahmed. They told him, why do you leave? Just stay. He said, if I don't leave, he's not going to come. So I have to leave. And stick to your belief. Be patient. So when he left, the Jewish began to find the disciples and find the followers of Isa, and they began to kill them. Some of them fled. Some of them didn't stay. Now, when they put Judas on the cross, he only stayed on the cross for 4 hours. They were so rushed to put him on the cross. So he was put up on Friday. He was taken down on Friday. He was put up Friday evening. He was taken down on Friday. Why? Friday night becomes Saturday. Saturday is a holiday. They cannot put anybody. So they took him down on Saturday. They didn't put him back up. So it's impossible for somebody to die 4 hours on the cross. So when they put him back in the tomb, he was not dead. And even Pontius Pilate said, based on my experience, I crucified thousands of people. Nobody can die 4 hours on the cross. So the Jewish, they said, we have killed the false Messiah. We have killed Isa. To this day, they boast about it. And Allah tells us in the Quran, they did not crucify him. They did not kill him. It appears to you that he was crucified, but he was not crucified. It appears to you he was crucified, but he was not crucified. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us, I am worried that one day you will go over the limit with me, just like you went with Isa. Just like the people of Isa, his community, the Yahud, they said, he's son of God. I'm afraid you might make me the same. Do not raise my status. Ana Abdullah, I am the slave of Allah. That's Muhammad ﷺ told us. O people of the book, do not go extreme with your religion. Your Lord and my Lord are one. O people of the book, who are the people of the book? Yahud, the Christians. Do not go extreme about your religion. Your Lord is one. And when Allah, on the day of judgment, Allah asked Isa, did you tell the people to make me, your mother, and you as a God? Now Allah knows the answer to this, but as people behind Isa, the Christians, are seeing that Isa is testifying, no Allah, I never said none of these claims. I never called myself son of God. I never called myself God. I only said the truth. You know what's inside of me. I do not know what's inside of you. And everybody on the day of judgment are seeing Isa alayhi salam testifying that I was just a prophet. And if I would have said that, you would have known. Now, in the Quran, Allah tells us that the Torah and the Bible, there is evidence inside of them that they are false. Evidence to them, not to us. So Allah tells us, قُلْ هَاتُ بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. If you are saying that the Bible and the Torah, the Bible and the Jewish book right now, the Tanakh, not the Torah, the Tanakh, are from Allah, then bring your book to us and show us your evidence. And I read this verse like over a year ago, and I began to really study the Bible, and I began to see evidence in the Bible that it was used against them. Evidence that the Injil, the Bible, is not from Allah. It has nothing to do with Allah. The New Testament is not from Allah. So we're done with prophet stories. These are all the prophet stories. So if you have been coming here every week, then you have completed all the prophet story. If you haven't, then you can catch up on the link on the group chat. We are done with prophet story. The next series we're going to have is about the Bible and the errors in the Bible, and it's actually mind-blowing that once you see these errors, you'll be like, how is anybody following these? Evidence based on historian, based on Christians themselves. Even some Christians, bishops, are admitting that Isa was a man, not a God. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the biggest church in the world admitting that Isa was a man? Can you imagine that? That's the difference it makes us between us and Christian is Isa. If they say Isa is a prophet, then they can join Islam. That's the biggest difference between Muslim. Yahud completely deny Isa. They deny him. They don't believe in him. He's a false antichrist, they call him, or Dajjal. That's what they call him. Even when you read the New Testament, your mind will be blown how much evidence in there that tells you that the Bible is literally against itself. Literally against. The Bible is telling you Isa never got crucified. Can you imagine that? And they still say he was crucified? So next week we will talk about the Bible and the errors, and then we're done with all the private stories. Then we will move on to the signs of judgment days and heaven and hell and death. Anybody have a question?
No. Thank you.